Hi, you're listening to When Isabel Met Aviva, a podcast about rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and how to break into the entertainment industry. I'm Isabel.
And I'm Aviva.
And this is our first Christmas episode of the season.
I know, I wish the background were more festive.
I know. I do have a Christmas tree. I did have a very Hallmark weekend that I told Aviva about, but I did go cut down my own Christmas tree and go to a Christmas farm. And so you can't see it in the background of my video, but I do have like Christmas things going on in my apartment.
Thank you.
And I have been watching Christmas movies all week, mostly older ones, but I did watch, have you seen Noelle on Disney Plus?
No, I don't. I know of the name. Yeah.
I feel like I heard about this movie, but I never watched it, but it was actually pretty good. It was like, I was kind of confused if it was meant for adults or children because it was like Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader. Yeah, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I feel like I have seen it when it came out, but I need to rewatch it. I can't really remember.
Yeah, it was really cute. I mean, it wasn't a rom-com. I mean, it had like a little bit. I thought that it was gonna turn into a rom-com. So that's where I was like, I think this is just like a kids movie. I don't know. I looked up the rating and it was rated G, and so I was a little surprised by that. But
I want Anna Kendrick to be in like a PG-13R Christmas rom-com. That'd be really
yeah. No, it was interesting. It made me feel like I feel like I don't know, it made me think about the Christmas movies we've been writing. And I was like, I feel like our movies could totally get made because it felt like it was on that level. Like it was like a good, like, I don't know. I think it was the guy who wrote it, but I thought it was like a pretty decent Christmas movie. So.
Nice. Okay, I love Anna Kendrick. I just listened to her interview on Call Her Daddy, you know, that really famous podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Chat. She's like Call Her Daddy, side note, is just like a podcast inspo. I was just like, how did she get so big? And yeah, yes. I've been watching a lot of Christmas movies too. I've been knitting a lot and watching.
Yeah, I saw your knitting posts. They look so cute. I love them.
Thank you. So I've been knitting a lot and watching rom-coms. What have I been watching? Oh, I saw Hot Frosty.
Oh, so how was that? That I feel like I think I'm gonna watch that maybe tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, I should. I don't know what to say. I struggle with like criticizing movies here because like I just like don't want to be a hater, but I also want to be authentic. It wasn't really what I'd hoped it would be. I think on the note of what you're saying about G-rated and like it being more of a kids movie, like Noelle, like I think some of these movies they like can't really decide who the target audience is. Maybe not for Hot Frosty as much, but
I was gonna say I hope they knew who they're making Hot Frosty for.
Although it was very tame. Like I will say, like if a child was in the room, I think like maybe the title is the most like
and maybe that was the like vibe. It's like for moms, but like it's also with the mind that like their kids might be watching this movie with them.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. Now I feel kind of, I mean, like it was a creative idea. Let me know if you watch it. I don't want to give any spoilers.
Yeah, no, I will probably, this makes me want to watch it more. So.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the concept a lot. And I love magical realism. What was I going to say? Oh, another movie I'm going to finish eventually. I saw Dear Santa. It's on Paramount. But I saw it through Amazon. And it's with Jack Black, and it's about it's such a fun premise. But again, it's not a rom-com. But again, like I think the producers were confused, and a lot of the reviews said this too. Who is the target demographic? So like it's quickly about this boy who can't spell very well, so he writes like "Dear Satan" on his like letter to Satan.
Oh, that's cute.
Just like not a cozy Christmas rom-com concept. But I thought it was going to be super unhinged and like R-rated. And it was just, it felt like it was meant for kids and it just like didn't work. Cause like what mother's going to be like, or like parent is going to be like, here's a movie about Satan. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a children's concept.
Yeah.
It had been really inappropriate and it wasn't, but I'll keep
I like that. I feel like something I really liked about Noelle was the way they handled like modern, Christmas, you know, like it was like kind of funny to see the cousin ends up having to like take over Santa Claus while like the original Santa goes missing, and then but that cousin's like really up on the tech, and so he's like, I don't know, it was just like really funny. I was like, I like this kind of like whoever was thinking through this like really felt like they matched the like this is what it would be like if we had a modern Santa Claus. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we should do another episode where we like talk about everything we've been watching lately, because I feel like I have seen quite a few films lately. And it would be fun. I posted on Instagram. Some of our guests had new projects out this season, so we should talk about that in another episode, because I would love to like continually promote people we've had on the show. So
yeah, we got to get Carly back on here too.
yeah,
Talk about her latest project.
But yeah, today we're continuing with the Christmas theme. We are interviewing Isabel Dréan, and she's a Christmas writer. So this is a great time of year to chat with her. And she's a writer. She's from Canada. She can tell us more about her background. She sold a bunch of Christmas movies in a short period of time, and now she teaches like online classes about how to write Christmas movies. She's very into rom-coms, of course.
And her name is Isabel.
Yeah, Isabel.
I'm excited to meet another Isabel.
I've specifically talked to her online. Like, she's been really generous with her advice to me about querying. So I would love to chat with her about that in particular, cold querying. Yeah, how to get our scripts in the right hands, because that is continually a confusing challenge.
Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful, and I am excited to learn too. So, should we let another Isabel into our podcast?
Start chatting.
Welcome, Isabel, to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited because Aviva has been telling me about like things she's learned from you about querying, and it sounds like it was really helpful. Like your tips really were successful for Aviva. So
I need to start like querying again. But yeah, very unconventional advice. So that's partially why we wanted to talk to you, because I haven't heard it elsewhere.
And we both want to write Christmas movies someday. So we're kind of like we have some like exciting, like we can't wait to hear your thoughts on everything. But I would really love to just hear a little bit about your background, because I don't know. We usually start with our guests like asking, did you go to school for screenwriting, or like how did you learn about screenwriting? Like give us a little bit about your backstory and how you ended up being a screenwriter.
I think I have a little bit conventional in a way that I started as an actress.
Oh, okay.
A lot of directors and writers, female directors, have started as an actress, but I did quit the business earlier on, and basically sold everything. Well, I studied in New York, lived in LA, and then sold everything and moved to Asia. And I lived in Laos for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I was coming up to a certain birthday, and I was like, the questions like, will I have regrets? And, and then it was very clear to me that I was like, no, if I don't make movies in my life, I will have regrets. I've been wanting to make movies since I was 3, in front or in the back of the camera. But like, that was like, my life has been guided through that. And even though I took a pause, I was like, okay, I want to go back. So I left everything. I had 4 businesses in Laos, 50 employees, took the 2 kids, and came back to the West in 2010 and made my introduction back into the business I launched a streaming platform for curated short content in French in Quebec, and then became a producer and then a director. And then I separated from my partner, so I moved back to LA in 2013, and underestimated how much I could direct with 2 young kids, a single mom with no support, and eventually, after a couple of years, realized like there was no way I could leave the house for long periods of time, and turned to writing. And I started writing horror and thrillers. I love really dark screen, which has nothing to do with Christmas. But I had a script in '99 when I was an actress as for me to play. And so I took that script, did a rewrite, and placed Nicole right away. And like 3 months, basically wrote and then ended up quarterfinalist at the Nickel, which really helped me. I got a manager at the time. We ended up splitting ways, but met some producers, starting developing relationship, and really struggled for 5 years of trying to learn the process because it took me forever to write a script. It would take me a year. And then a producer that I had met was working on a dystopian pilot, came to me at the end of 2019 and says, "How do you feel about Christmas movies?" I was like, I don't feel anything because I'm not somebody who used to watch them. And she said, "Well, do you want to try to write one? Because I'm about to have a slate of 3 movies and I would love to. I love working with you and I would love for you to get a shot." So I pitched a few ideas. They liked the one that eventually became Secret Santa. And I had to kind of write it on spec. I didn't have a contract. So it was really like I was taking a shot. Like maybe if they liked the script, then they would acquire it. And so I watched a lot of Christmas movies. I studied them. And then by doing this process, weirdly, I developed the system that now I use and now I teach is how to write a screenplay, a Christmas movie in 21 days, and wrote mine in 2.5 weeks. And then sent it in, and they loved it. The producer in Toronto was like, "It's the best Christmas screenplay I've read," and they probably say that to everyone, but I was like, "I'll take it."
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then I had a little bit of notes, and then they shot like almost my first draft. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm liking this." Yeah. And then the process was really easy. And they had 3 green lights that, usually how it works, a producer gets slates and then they have to fill it with the movies that they want to make. So usually they'll get 3 movies greenlit and then they'll just plug in. And so they had 3. And so the third one was going to be an adaptation of a novel that they had optioned. And they liked working with me. So they asked me if I wanted to write that. And so I did that. I wrote that one in a couple of weeks. And then the pandemic hit. So it delayed they didn't come out in 2020, but they did get produced in 2021. And then they had another slate of 3. And instead of hiring another writer, they just gave me the whole slate. And so I wrote 3 that year and basically wrote most of them within like 4 to 6 days with the process that I use. And very little note because with my process, the first draft is quite strong. And so then I got 55 movies made in like a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
And then everybody was like, "I want to learn your system," because I kept saying I have a beat system and it works really well. And I use it because I don't exclusively write Christmas movies. I do. Well, it's taken over my life in a way that I didn't expect, because of course now I teach a master class and I teach a boot camp. And I didn't really want to teach, but I got the bug. And last year was a hard year with the strike. And I decided to do a boot camp because I was like, well, I don't have much to do and I wanted to give back, and just loved it. And so now I'm teaching this month my 6th one, and I just sold out my 7th one in January, which probably will be my last live one. But I don't know. I love this. I love the process and seeing writers, learning how to write faster, better. And then, of course, I'm very good with marketing, the querying. People are always like, what are your, how much queries are you doing? I'm like, I do very little. I mean, I've never mass queried. People come to me. I use, manifestation and visualization to bring things to me. So I don't go out a lot, but when I do, I get responses, And then I realized that I queried very differently than everything that is out there. And everything I do, people say, never do that, never do this. And I mean, I don't remember sending an email, even cold one, that wasn't answered in some kind of way. And so, I saw Aviva's post on Facebook about querying, and I had sometimes I make these little videos on TikTok that I share about tips. And so I shared a couple, and then I was like, oh, I want to help her because,
Oh, yeah, you were so generous.
I do help a lot of people like this. I see like, she sent like so many and, not getting much response. And I'm like, it's not the script, it's not you, it's not even the business, it's really how you're querying. So I started giving her little tips, and then we went from like, I think it was like 0.5% response to like 60% response.
Yeah, I got some responses. It worked.
At a meeting. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yes.
did the meeting. Yeah, that was cool.
So the approach is very different. So,
Mhm.
and now I teach a career strategy, and I'm about to launch a boot camp, but for, selling your script without a rep, because I just got a rep, but all of this I did without a rep.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to add, just for listeners as well, like the nickel, if for newbies, is such an impressive placement at the beginning
I was
of
gonna
your
say.
screenwriting career. Like that must have been so encouraging. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, it's hosted by the Oscars, and it's the most prestigious screenwriting contest out there. It's definitely super impressive. So
Yeah,
just
and
wanted
in
to share that.
2015, I have to say, like, I applied with the psychological thrillers. Thrillers were it was very rare to place with that. So, and that gave me a seal of approval. Like I knew, okay, I'm on to something. I think I can do this. And but you say now I think a lot of I know a lot of people who have placed Nicole, but at the time, like if you say, oh, okay, I've placed Nicole, it kind of gives people like, okay, she's a good writer.
Yeah.
It really helps facilitate. And I always say, like, these are the things that you're starting cold, and you want to add these little things that are making you hot, right? You want to add these prestigious competition. I'm not someone who advised to do competitions a lot, maybe like at the beginning of your career, but then you have to, it's just a money making machine by this point. And so really pick the things, but adding all the little things that can make you hot or interesting. Like for you guys, having this podcast is something that makes you stand out, that makes you a little hotter, right? So you all these little things that can make, but you were very smart. This is super smart to do a podcast. So how do you do this to build your brand? And and the hotter you get, the easier it is. Of course, now, like my subject lines and inquiries is super important. But, of course, now for me, it's like 5 movies produced in 18 months. They always open it.
Yeah. Yeah. So can we start, I guess, at the beginning, maybe advice wise? So if we want to be a Christmas rom-com writer, we need to write, right? How would you recommend like starting? Like how many scripts do we need? And how do we
Well, of
start?
course, you should take my master class.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, step one is take your class.
Class is a 3-hour master class that really gives you an idea of how to think like a producer. That's the thing, right? I came from I'm an entrepreneur. I've had businesses for over 20 years, almost 25. But like thinking like a producer, people always think like, okay, I'm going to write a script for my audience, right? We write for our audience, but your first audience is the producer. And people completely forget what producers are looking for. They go, oh, the audience is looking for this, but what is the person you're going to sell to? And so that's the first thing I do. And I realize most writers, weirdly, when they're writing, don't think about the person they're going to sell to. And they are very strict criteria for the formulas, because we say Christmas movies, but the ones that are sold like 200 a year are made are usually pretty much in the same box. It's not like the Christmas Chronicles is a different thing, right? Like the Christmas with the Santa and the elves and the magic, that is Christmas movies, but they're not, that wouldn't be easier to sell than, a drama,
Right.
they're harder to sell. The Christmas movies, the Hallmark type, we call it, with the romance, it's a very precise formula. And these, you have more chances to sell because they're making so many. A lot of companies are making like 30 a year. But if you, a lot of, when I started writing Christmas movies, people would go, "Oh, I have a Christmas movie. It's Santa." And I was like, well, that's not going to help you. That's not going to make your path easier.
Yeah.
So I do advise new writers, you should have a couple of Christmas movies that follow the formula. Meaning you have to study the Hallmark, and then you have to make it different. You have to make it stand out. So I always say you don't make it stand out so much by originality, but by adding heart. A lot of time I read these scripts, I'm like, where's the romance? Where's the, where are you making me feel like warm inside? Where are you making me maybe a little teary in some scenes? Like you have to look at the emotional journey of and create that, because now the audience, they want to feel good. They want to have something happening inside. It's not like a psychological thriller. It's up here. But, for a rom-com or a romance, it's down here. You have to have in your heart, like you have to make them feel. But now there's so many that you have to kind of be a little bit original as well, So I came up with an idea tester. So you go through the tester to ask certain questions on how to build your story, and then outline and study the other, find comparables for your movie and then outline them so you can see. It's like almost like opening up, like you're not learning to be a mechanic by watching cars on the road, right? You have to open the hood.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. You have to watch movies, you have to break them down and look and see how they're constructed. And when you watch them and you break a few of them next side by side, you will see trends. You will see, oh, they're all doing the same thing. It's a very different story, but they're all doing the same thing. I think that's why people love, Save the Cat so much. I don't. I don't. I don't think he had the right idea that sometimes there are patterns of structure in movies, but you can't apply the same structure for all movies. So I studied the Christmas romance, the rom-coms are very similar, and there is a pattern that you figure out. There's a shape for your structure in rom-coms that don't apply for psychological thrillers. They don't apply for horror films. They don't apply for dramas. They don't apply for, so an action movie, it's a different, so the diagram of your structure would be different. And he's done one of them for all movies. And that's where it's like, and I'm like, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I mean, maybe there are points like the all is lost moment is common in probably all movies, but not the 12. I think there's 12, right? 12 beats, 12 moments.
Right.
I think it's a lot more complicated than that, but yeah. So that's what I would do if I was a newbie today, and I would watch a lot of them.
Yeah.
And break them down, because just by watching, you don't get to see the similarities. I mean, sometimes maybe they're so similar. Some of them are so similar.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about that. I was just like, there's so many holiday movies made now. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of curious, like what suggestions or advice you might have for standing out, like in like your pitch or in your email. Like, how do we, like, I feel like so many people are making these types of movies. A lot of people are going to end up having very similar concepts. And I feel like there is like how much can you really change like the idea of like these Christmas movies, because I feel like they do sort of have an idea of what people want, and so it's kind of like sometimes it feels like they just tweak little things, like what the person's job is or like the setting. So it's like, how do we kind of like I don't know, stand out in that sea of like, I always think of that Hallmark meme, right? Where it's like the same movie title, like slightly different.
We're the
Yeah,
same.
I'm like, funny, but it's true. The thing is, I think a lot of people make the mistake, like just for querying, for example, the subject line. People put the title of their movie, their script. Well, that's not going to tell anything to the producer because they don't know your script. So never use your subject line for the title of your movie. You have to use whatever makes you hot or whatever makes your script, it's like if it's a new rom-com, set in Georgia, or like something that talk to them like a producer, you know. I had, I had someone writing something like a country style, and one of the character was kind of similar to Dolly Parton. And I told her, like, subject line, do you love Dolly as much as I do? And if the person loves Dolly, they will open that email. And if they don't, they're not the right person for you. But like if you don't have anything that makes you hot in the subject line, then you have to go with interest. I just had one of my students sell his script. He took my boot camp and joined my career strategy. So I helped him do his query, and it was a baking competition. You know how many baking competitions?
I've seen that a lot.
I mean, already made, but even on the market, there's a lot. But I have to say, Matthew Frendo is a great writer. It was perfect. Like it matches the formula. So that's also one thing when producers are reading your script, they're looking at, does this writer get it? And most writers don't get it. They don't get it. It's like they don't get the number of characters. They don't get the number of locations. They haven't thought the production side of it. The number of characters can never be more than 6 or 8 main ones. Location, I always say, don't write $1 million line. At the Rockefeller Center, Heartline 3, like, no, we're not going to shoot in the middle of New York City unless then you sell to a bigger company. But that means now you've made your job much harder to sell the script. By one line, you're making it hard to, but it happens all the time. I'm like, why are they on an airplane? Oh, because she's going to there. I'm like, yeah, but do you know how much it costs to shoot on an airplane? Unless you need it in your script. I had a holiday swap thing where the luggage gets swapped in an airplane. I had to write a scene in an airplane. Producer was like, oh my God, one day is so expensive. So if you don't need that, you don't put a scene in an airplane. But my story had to do with airplanes, so obviously we had it. But that's the kind of thing, like you really need to show that you're smart, that you understand production. This movie's going to be shot, how many locations, how many people, like just make it easy for the producer to be able to go, oh, okay, I can do this. Most of the budgets for these are under $1 million. So don't do a chase on ski jets, like that costs a lot of money. Stunts cost a lot of money. Fires, things like this, like, so there's a lot of things in terms of production. Writers should know what things cost. I always say, like, writers, I always ask, like, oh, what's the budget of your script? I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
you should know. You should know. And then one thing that people they always say, never pitch 2 log lines in a query. And I always do. And I get response because if I ask you, do you want to read this? What are you going to answer? Yes or no? But if I ask you, do you like this or this? Right or left? You're going to pick one, right? So I offer 2 things, and usually they go, oh, I don't want this one, but I'll read this one. Because now it's basic sales, right? And people go, never put 2 log lines. I'm like, okay, then you end up, that's a question of a yes and no answer. So I go 2. And sometimes I go 2 and then I'll put a line, oh, and I also have a high concept. And then they'll go, oh, what's the, they'll say, I'll read this one and send me, what is the high concept? Because now you pique their curiosity.
Yeah, now they're interested.
And I'm very bold because I go, I have a high concept that has potential of being a classic. But I have to say, don't do that. But because I have 5 reviews, they take me seriously. I don't sound delusional. You want to sound like if you've never written and it's your first script, don't say, oh, this one's a classic, but
Yeah.
I tried it. I was like, oh, is this too bold? And then it worked. But
Love that.
And tracking, right, Aviva?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Tracking, like, for example, I always go like, oh, okay, so you've sent how many? 100. Like, that's too much. Never send more than 10 at a time because you want to readjust, email marketing. Once you get into querying, that's email marketing. And the A/B testing is important. So you do 2 different subjects, 5 with one and 5 with the other, and then you track. And then you see, oh, okay, they opened this one more than this one. So now you have a subject line that works better. So you switch the subject line. And also so I do log lines, and underneath my log line, I put a link to download the one sheet. So then, so that way, if they click on that, they can open it and read my synopsis, and I don't have to do nothing. But usually they click, and I track the click, so I know when they are looking at it.
Yeah.
And so I do that for both log lines. And and then then what else do I do?
Wait, can you guys explain how you track the emails? Because I remember Aviva was telling me about this, and I don't even know how you turn that setting on.
Tracking, you pay per month, but it's
Okay.
like, if you're going to be querying, you need mail tracking. I think now it's called Mail Suite. I think they just changed name, and I think their rates just went up a little bit. But you cannot send emails without a tracking system, because otherwise you're going like this. Like, are they liking, you don't know. You don't know if it's your subject line. If they open it and they're not requesting, then your log lines are not good.
Yeah.
Right? Strong log lines. And so if they don't open it, then already, okay, they haven't nobody's opened it. My log line, my subject line doesn't work. Then then if they open it and they don't ask for anything, then your log lines are not strong enough. Also, never ask to read your script in the query. Shocker, right? People are like, yeah, but that's the point of the email. Yeah, I think they get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So the ending of like, oh, would you please, if you'd like to read my screenplay? No, that's, for me, I go, okay, you do miss Christmas movies. I write Christmas movies. How can I help you fill your slate? Already when I say that, they understand, oh, this person understands my job, because the job of the producer is filling up their slate. So already by language saying, how can I help you fill your slate? They know that I understand their work.
Yeah.
Then I give them, and I say, well, this is what I have available at the moment. So I put my log line, and I put, status available. And then I put my little download sheet, one sheet underneath with the link. And that goes to Google Drive. So I always put my one sheet on my Google Drive, because if I want to update between, I realize, oh, there's a typo, there's something, I'm working on it, I'm getting it better, I can work on it and replace that file, and I don't have to communicate again, oh, I've updated my one sheet. And I do the same for screenplay. I never attach a screenplay to the email. I always have a link to that screenplay, and I make sure that it works. But if I have a typo, if I do a rewrite, because sometimes it takes them 2 weeks to read that email. And of course, between that time, I've done already 3 rewrites, or I polished, or I realized there's a typo in the first page, which has happened to every single writer I know. And then you have to send another email if you've attached it. Like you don't want to look like that. You don't want
Yeah.
to look. So
Yeah.
I put a link and I update. So even if that person opens my email in like 5 weeks, 5 months, when they click, they have the latest version.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
really
Yeah,
smart.
that's really smart.
And I want to add, just for the tech, the side, logistical side, yeah, it's just a Chrome extension, right? So maybe there are other ways, like Mail Suite is an extension. That's
Yeah.
how I got it.
I
Okay.
use
Yeah,
Gmail. Yeah, I use Gmail, and I use it's very easy. You just
so easy. And
it's
it's such a it's simple advice, right? But it's something I've never heard from anyone else,
I was
and
gonna say I haven't heard this before. I think this is like really smart.
it's really revolutionary, and I just enjoy it outside of querying. It's just so helpful to know when someone opened your email. Maybe others have had this for years, but it's a novelty for me still, and you can like see how many times they open something. It's interesting data for sure.
things, like you get an alert if they've opened your email multiple times or they forward
Yeah.
it. You get like a little email with a fire on it.
Ooh.
The producer has opened your email multiple times or forwarded it. It's like, I mean, there's nothing more thrilling. I just got one of those.
So cool. It's so validating. Yeah. And yeah, it's just helpful. Like as we try to recruit guests for the podcast, like I know, sometimes it's hard
Yeah.
to find the right email. And it's just so interesting to like confirm that their manager did open it and maybe we didn't hear back and like, or maybe they didn't and we need to find a different email because sometimes it's hard to track down people's teams. So yeah.
We're good spies. Time, because if you're sending 100 and you don't have tracking, how do you know what you're doing is right? It's work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously not working if you send
Right.
that many. And so I always say you send 5, you do a test. And also just disclaimer, it's not 100% accurate. Some companies have firewalls that stop the emailing. Sometimes they might have opened it. I've had a producer say, right back, I didn't see that they opened it. And then she replied and like, oh, I read all your scripts. They're great. We want to set up. I was like, you didn't even read them. And
Yeah.
we obviously had read them. So,
Yeah.
so it's not 100% accurate, but it's enough to give you the knowledge and learn and build.
Mm-hmm.
And so so Google Drive is amazing for updating your screenplay. Make sure, test your emails, make sure your links. But so I do first email, introduction, a couple log lines, and then I close with, would you mind I would love to see how I can help you. Would you mind getting on a 10-minute call next week? 10 minutes. That's all you ask.
Yeah.
And usually they'll go, oh, I don't want, I'm not going to get the call, but send me this one. People struggle to say no, no, no. Like no to number 1, no to number 2, no to a call. Like that's a lot of no's for one person to handle. I don't know. There's a limit. Like it's hard to say no 3 times for anyone, even if they're ruthless in this business. Like I'll tell you a story. So I wrote the script, my first script in 99. And so at the time, it was really hard to get in, to be read like now. I mean, people say, oh, it was much easier in the 90s. It wasn't. It wasn't. And so I wrote the screenplay and I try to figure out, okay. And I made even a poster, which no one had posters at the time. And I made these little postcards. And so what I did, I organized a stage reading of that screenplay in a theater. And people were like, no one's going to come. And I was like, actually, I don't care. I just want to have something to invite them. So I would send them the postcard, the invitation, old school. And then I would call them and said, hey, I'm calling to see who's coming to the reading. And they would be, oh, no, we can't come. I said, oh, well, that's okay. Do you mind if I send you the screenplay? And then they're like on the phone. And I swear, I was read by every studio in town at the time. And my friend was like, I've been writing for 20 years. I've never been able to get read by studios. every studio, Search Fox, like everyone. And I had interest by Miramax. And anyway, long story, I left the country. I quit. And I was just in a phase where I needed to get away from LA. But when you're starting to think, like, try to think outside the box, like, and people were like, you're doing a whole stage, like 30 actors on the stage, and rented a theater just for people to say yes to read your screenplay. I was like, yeah, because they're going to say no to this. It's hard to say no twice. There's something about, so I'm telling this story because you have to think outside the box. Like, for example, I know for a fact, no one calls. No one calls companies. Very, like, screenwriters very rarely calls. So Jacob Kruger did a podcast about this, like, calling. I haven't done it, but I know calling is, a very powerful tool.
Interesting.
And getting to know the assistant on the phone, because that assistant that's on the phone today is going to be the producer in 5 years. So you want to get, like, meet assistants. And like, you guys, right? Try to think of ways of meeting people. You guys are doing a rom-com podcast. I'm hoping that you're inviting some exec on your list, right?
Yeah.
No, we were realizing we are kind of like networking through doing this. So it's been really great to like meet so many people through this.
I mean, this is, Nathan Davis, really, he's like having a movie produced now. He left the business, came back into the business, and did this whole series on YouTube about getting back into the business, and would invite all these people from the business, like, for I don't know how long, but for like quite an extensive amount of interviews. What did you think? He's super nice, he's friendly, and he's a good writer. He got to meet all these people, and like really quickly, he sold a movie with a big budget and got an agent, and he's killing it. He quit his day job, but he was smart about it. Like, so you have to think outside the box in terms of branding, because of course they're making 200 movies a year of Christmas movies. Imagine how many people are writing them.
Yeah.
And I have to say, my class has not helped, because I keep telling people, write Christmas movies. And should have a couple of Christmas movies. If you haven't been produced, you should write them. It's not my favorite, like, it's not my genre. I write horror, I write psychological stuff. And I also write coming of ages about, my own life. I've got a couple of coming of age, but you know what? It's a business. You have to find your way in.
Yeah, definitely. I had a question also with querying follow-up emails. How many should we send? Should we send them? Yeah. There's so much conflicting advice.
How long do you wait between? Like,
A couple weeks is a good amount.
Yeah.
And often, they might not have opened the email. So obviously target these people again, because, change the subject line, change the thing, right? And you can try a different approach. Instead of trying to pitch them screenplays, you could pitch them yourself. Say, hey, I'm writing Christmas movies. I'd love to hear, your thoughts. Can we get on a call? Like, try different strategies. If they haven't responded once, then that means that something didn't click. Change your log lines, redo it almost like completely, and then try again. And if they don't respond after you send 3 emails, it's over.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in the industry, so you could just move on to a new list and just focus on the people that have responded. If they've responded and asked to read, I usually wait a couple weeks, but usually I'll reach out and with something that I'm doing, not following up on, hey, did you read? I'll go, hey, I just, if you haven't read it, I've just done a polish,
Yeah.
So I sent, I've just done another polish. Maybe you want this new version. And then I put the link. I don't attach, but it's just a way. Or, oh, I'm working on this one now, or I just finished this screenplay. And then I'm using the second one as a follow-up to pitch a third one, right? And maybe they'll like that one, and they'll go, oh, do you have some things we like this, but something similar? So now okay, maybe I'll put a pitch together and say, oh, so what do you like? And sometimes I just do a one pager, because I write them in less than a week. So if they really like it, I can write it,
Yeah.
write it quickly and send it. But I got in trouble this year because I did that, because someone was asking for a script and I sent a log line and I said it was finished and I only had 20 pages. And then it was Friday afternoon. I thought, no way, I can, if they request it, I'll have the weekend.
Yeah.
That's enough for me to finish a script. And
Wow.
then you're like, it's urgent. Can you send it now?
Oh no. What did you do?
I stayed up all night and I said, oh, I'm not home right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm not home. I'll send it later. And then basically at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., I'm like, oh, I just got home. My life. Just got home. Here's the script. And I send it there. But it's, don't do that.
Yeah. That sounds stressful.
It's so slow in this business. Like,
Yeah.
what are the odds that they would ask like now and then text me like 2 hours later, hey, send the script. Like, oh my God.
It reminds me of Karen Shaler, I think her name is. She wrote Christmas Prince or something, and similar thing happened where she had, I think, 24 hours to write the script, and then it became this huge Netflix franchise. So,
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're fairly simple, and that is the key also. Like when you write, I find one of the mistakes that writers do, they overcomplicate things because they want to be different, or they're so similar and they're so simple. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. And I would even say, like, try to write one that is exactly the Hallmark one that you feel like, oh, I've seen this movie, but then make sure that in the moments that there's emotions, that you really feel that romance, that the chemistry between your two characters work. And then you can, make the box a little bit bigger. Like the one I wrote in 24 hours is a Christmas mystery. It's a little bit more complicated. It has a cat, which probably will never happen. But I wanted to show different skills, because now they know I can write the Hallmark perfect type. So, I just wanted to expand my box, because I do want to, I'm not looking to leave the box, but I'm expanding that box or add more boxes to my portfolio. So, but don't do that. Don't add a cat that is almost talking to the character. But it's a good spec, because I was like, if I'm going to write a spec, I need a spec that's a little bit more evolved, than what I'm doing, because I've got the track record. But, be smart. It's all about being smart. And, we were talking about technology. When I talk to a writer, and this happens all the time in my boot camp, in my class, Google Drive, Google Doc, and people are confused or struggle to use Google Doc, to Google Drive, like, my God, like, you're going to be working with the producer. They're going to send you notes. You need to learn to use these tools. If you're not a computer, like, a little bit, like, they won't waste time, being confused about Google Doc and Google Drive.
Yeah.
Learn these basic stuff, because a lot of them use that to share documents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how, like, it's a skill.
It's
But
true.
everybody's like writing the perfect script and applying to competitions. 99% of writers put all their focus on that, writing the perfect script and applying to competitions. And to me, that's like, you have to split between writing and branding and marketing and learning the skills, because the reality is, a screenwriter will be part of a production. What you're making is a production. So you have to be aware of what that entails. And also, you're a salesperson. When I say like your email marketing, you're a salesperson. And I think a lot of people don't realize being a screenwriter is really a sales position.
Yeah.
You are in constant selling position. I mean, and now even if you're writing specs, but once you get to a certain point, it's pitching, pitching, pitching. What is pitching? Pitching is selling. But people don't use the word sell because it's like, oh, it's a dirty word. But you know what? If you're not someone who's comfortable with selling, and learning that and willing to do that, you're in the wrong profession, because then you're just hoping to win the lottery,
Right.
and get that call. I mean, I was lucky I got that call, but I put in the work
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
Can I ask about in when you're sending these emails and you say like in the beginning there's an intro, what exactly, like what is best for an intro? Is it one sentence? Like I want to think too from the perspective of most of our audience are, writers who have never sold anything or never had anything made for the first time. So how do you introduce yourself as, I'm a new writer, like I don't have any credits, to my name. You don't obviously want to say it like that, but I'm kind of curious what those like first two sentences usually look like.
Well, that's a great question. First of all, don't send mass querying where the email is the same for everyone.
Mm,
Do your research. Who are you sending this to?
yeah.
Mention something. I loved your last film. I know, like, do your research. That's
Mm,
why I always say don't send, 100. Like, target 10, learn what they do, see what they're doing, and talk about them.
mm,
I'm new to this. I'm writing Christmas movies. This is, I would love to learn from you or help, get on the call to hear what you're looking for.
mm,
Often this is one of the sentence I say, okay, you've done this, I do this. So, we have something in common, the Christmas
yeah.
movies, right? I'm working on these projects, but I'd love to hear from you. What are you looking for, so I can
Mm,
make a better choice in my next project? And
Mm.
if that's all you get, that's great. So like what is the goal of a query, right? What is the goal of a query? People will say, read my screenplay. That is the wrong goal.
yeah.
For me, a query is to open a channel of communication between me and that person. That is all. So when I send an email, she knows who I am. She'll respond. And if I get on a call, then they know me and I know them. That means now I have a channel where anytime I work on something, I can go, hey, I'm working on this. And you keep up with them. As soon as you talk to them, you put them on a separate list and you keep up, you get in touch every 3-4 months. And you check what they're doing. Do they have a movie out? Congratulations, your movie's out. Oh, they got a nomination. They got this. Now you have to keep up,
Mm,
because it's not just, oh, you answered once and it's over. You have to build relationship. Why do I have 5 movies made with Lane Shefter Bishop? Is because I helped her. She was looking for a writer to do a pilot and there was no money. We were developing. I agreed. And I worked with her for a year on that pilot. And she saw my ethics. I gave my all the way I would have been if I was paid. But I was like, I'm writing for free for myself. Might as well work for free for somebody that's actually has access to people.
Yeah.
And then so we got to know each other. We work really well together. And then one day that she gave me a call because she had an opportunity, and that's how. But Lane and I are friends now.
Mhm.
So that's what you want to do. You want to build relationships with as many people as you can, because that's how you get work. Most of the time when you ask writers, how did you get work, is somebody mentioned you or you got to know them slowly. And it's people hire people they know.
Yeah.
People buy movies from people they know. And this is like, and people go, oh, but I don't have connections. That is not true. How many writers do you know? How many people do, sound like everyone in the business is someone you know. And then you have to, maintain these relationships and expand. And social media now, it's so easy. Two of the jobs I got last year, assignments from people I knew, well, one person in real life, one person straight out from Facebook. They never asked me to read my work. It was just,
Yeah. Yeah. These are really good. These are really, really good advice. I think that's what effective networking is, kind of what we've done on the podcast, even though we weren't even thinking about it as networking, which maybe is beneficial. Because when we like genuinely are building these, relationships through conversation, I think it's just so much more memorable than just like being like, read my script, like, like they get that all the time. So
honestly, most of the time they don't even need to.
Yeah.
Like, who you want to work with. I have, it's like, it's the people, this, I've been watching a lot of bad movies recently. I don't know what it is, but this year is like, there's a lot of bad ones.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, how did they greenlit this? I said, you're thinking about this wrong. These are not projects that were greenlit. It's the people that were greenlit. They wanted to work with them and they gave them money to develop something. And it turned out they're not good, but this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's the people, and the more you go up and up and up, the more it becomes about you and not about the work. So when you know that, I don't care if you read my script or not. And I actually am someone who doesn't share her scripts that much. I really don't. But my network is huge. And I know if somebody hears about a Christmas movie, they're going to reach out. They reach out to me all the time. And because I take the time. I spend at least an hour a day just on social. Well, I use Facebook mostly because, producers and execs are Gen X now. So, most of them are on Facebook. And I go through and I make sure that I see if somebody's at the hospital, if they've lost someone, if it's their birthday. I send personal notes. At Christmas time, I spent hours. I have almost 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I usually send greetings to almost every single one.
Wow.
Facebook fucking blocked. They block me. They block me. You can do so. You have to do it like I think it's 50 a day.
Yeah. They're like, you're a bot.
Yeah.
So they stop me, and then so sometimes I'll look in the conversation and it's me going, Christmas, New Year. Sometimes I'll do Christmas for one. I have to because it's over like almost 100 days. So I start with Christmas and then I finish with the holidays and Happy New Year. And you'll see like the conversation is Happy New Year, Happy Birthday, Happy Christmas, Happy this for like years. And then eventually, you think, oh, like I'm stalking them, but they'll always respond, thank you. Some people don't. But you know what? I go to Sundance Con and I go, my name. Oh, I know you. And they know me. And that's the key, right? You want them to know you. Like, look, I mean, for you guys, it's so smart, this podcast, because I knew you.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. And the whole thing about networking not being genuine is a limiting belief. So like, it's a limiting belief because honestly, if you're interested in making movies and somebody is making movies, there's an interest, there's a common, something. And especially if they're making good movies.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to make good movies. You make good movies. It's not disingenuous, it's not disingenuous. What's the word? Sorry.
Disingenuous. Yeah.
Disingenuous, yeah. Inauthentic.
French gets in the way. Yeah, so it's, it's real.
Yeah.
And I've made so many friends. Like most of my network around me now are people that I've met like that. And I'm very, when I see someone that I don't know who are making good movies and are doing exciting things, I'm like, I want to spend time with you. Let's get coffee. Let's get a drink. And of course, they get excited about what I'm doing. And because, in 2020, I heard this thing. Tim Ferriss always says this, you're the average of 5 people, right?
Yes.
And I looked around me, and no offense to my friends, but I was kind of the one that had them. And this is before I even had my Christmas movies, because I've done web series, and I've sold In the Room at Warner Brothers, and I've had some success, but nothing that, was impactful in the terms of, when you look at my IMDb. But I was still one of the people that had the most success. And I was like, it's wrong. I need to, if I want to move up, I've got to meet people at another level. And then I started adding people and doing what I'm doing. If like getting to know, if I see a competition, if I see deadline, there's a movie, I look at all the names, and then I try to add them on Facebook. Maybe half of them will add me, but over time, I had only about 500 friends, like in 2020. I'm almost at my limit now, so I'm going to have to start eliminating people. But I'm like, if you're a plumber, you're going out. You're going to have to follow. But the thing is, I mean, for me, it's a professional choice. But like all my friends, the ones that are close to me, it's all from that. I have made dear friends now over years, and I'm obviously now not the most successful person in my group. And then, I have Oscar winners. I have Grammys, like Golden Globe, like every level of people now. And sometimes, maybe they don't know me, but I comment on so many posts that sometimes I meet people and they go, "Oh, you're the woman with the clap, right?" Because I'm always clapping on everybody's pose, because it brings my vibration up.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I understand algorithm. So I'm like, if I help you spread the word for your, if I see like, oh, you have a podcast, I'll share. I try to be the cheerleader that I want others to be for me.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I just heard this morning, this woman said they did a study of the most popular kids in school. And the one thing that they had in common is that the most popular kids in schools were the ones that liked the most people. To me, that's like mind blowing, because, well, I guess I wasn't that popular enough. I think when I was a kid, I didn't like that many people. And as an adult, like, I love people now. I outgrow this space, and I realize sometimes, like, you carry this around, but you're like, you know what? People like me now. Like, it's you get what you put out there. So be likable. Be likable, and don't rant about the business in a podcast, maybe, but in social media, if you don't have a career.
Yeah. Definitely. I had a quick question, and then maybe we should transition to rapid fire.
Yes.
My quick question is, I know I think you've been to Sundance and other in-person networking opportunities, and I'm just curious, would you recommend like going to Austin, or like that's something I've been thinking about? Yeah, because I've never been to any like screenwriting physical events really, except locally. But yeah.
So I personally, Sundance was very hard for me. I don't like the cold. I think I would go back to Sundance if I had a project. I don't think I would go back to Sundance without a project. I really did not enjoy my experience, but I learned a lot. And then I went to Cannes, and that Cannes is a different ball game. Like, it's so fun. And you spend a week, almost 2 weeks, with producer, like everyone, and at every level. I would say if you're trying to write like Hallmark Christmas movies, Hallmark might not be the market for that. But I have a project called Love Letter to Laos about my life in Laos. When so I was the first person who opened a licensed bookstore after the communist era. And I befriended this Lao boy who loved books, and through the love of books, we became a family. So I wrote a coming of age about that, and that is obviously at a higher level. The producers I'm aiming at would be at Cannes, so that's why I go to Cannes, and it was incredible. If you have, more elevated projects, I would say Cannes is the right place to go, and it's not cliquey as much. I feel like people are more open, and the weather, and it's Cannes. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's expensive, but you'll meet so many people at Cannes that maybe that's why I don't need to query so much, because I know already so many people, like I've met them, so it's easy for me if I know, okay, if you have a good memory, you're like, oh, okay, this project could go to this person, do you know someone? Austin. So I've never been to Austin, and people have said that it's great, that, and 30% of jobs usually come from other writers. I just got a manager who's from a writer's friend. But I know a lot of writers, so it might not be my goal to meet more writers, but I think it's like a summer camp for writers, but I don't think it's as impactful, I think, in terms of meeting people, because, well, I don't like to be put in a place where people, like the people I want to talk to, are on a panel, and then everybody's after them. So it's kind of like, 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 I don't feel comfortable when this happens, where I'm at the, like all the people, there's a little groups of very successful writers or producer at Austin, and then all the other people wanting to talk to them. I don't like when I put myself in this kind of situation. I like to be the one in the middle where people come to me, not the other way around. So for me, I might go next year, but just to hang out with my friends, not really as a, networking opportunity. So I'm not the right person to advise you on Austin, because also, like, anyway, I can tell you things off the record. Myself in trouble if I say, but anyway, I have a thing about competitions that are making money off writers, and that when I'm hearing people winning these competitions, and I'm not talking specifically from Austin, maybe, but people win and nothing happens. And they make millions on the fees, and pay their readers almost nothing. And people are getting emails. It looks like they haven't read the script. Scripts that are incredible, that are almost winning page, are not placing at all, not even a second rounder. The whole second rounder thing, where there's so many because they give discounts to their conference, seems to me like a ploy to sell tickets. But and there's a lot. It's not just them. Coverfly, all of these. Most of them are owned by 3 organizations. This is not 2015, right? The competition scene. Some people have understood that there's a lot of money to be made with writers. Desperation, and it's so. I would say the competition used to test your work, but I very, very rarely hear that somebody had their big break through a competition. Labs and residency, I would highly recommend some of them. If is a great place to get to know people, build relationships. You're not like this, but you're and but my friend, a lot of people love Austin, but it's it's an investment. If you have a few $1,000s to put, is that the best use of the money? I don't know. For me, my money is on Cannes, because I feel like I want to meet producers, I want to meet financiers, I want to meet people, executives, and that's where they are. So, and if you do TV, I mean, MIPCOM, Content London, like, there's a lot of they're expensive, so expensive. But then you will be in a room with people that are making decisions, but make sure that you're ready too, right? You have stuff to go. And now AFM, I think, was not so good in Las Vegas, so they might move again. And AFM for Christmas movies might be a better place. But, network online and get people to know you, I think, is a better way to, without spending a ton of, you don't need to spend a ton of money to get to know people. and coffee. I mean, wherever you are, there are always communities. Get to know the people, and if you're in LA, you should be meeting people for coffee or, and Zoom. Get on a Zoom for 10 minutes. This is how I do. I go, oh, can we get on Zoom? If you get to know somebody on social media and you have a few interaction, oh, can we get a Zoom so I can put a face to your name, and, and that's easy. And it costs nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely good advice. I think, yeah, at least I wasted a lot of money on contests at first.
That was what I did too when I first started this journey.
Like a rite of passage. I think it was helpful, but I wouldn't continue on that. Well, I would also just be completely broke if I just kept going on that trajectory. But
yeah.
So I think that's a common
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I get frustrated. I mean, how many placements do you need, right? Once you have a few, and I don't have that many because I have never really, I don't put my money in that. I always, and also, like, to be honest, I don't think producers like the same thing that the readers of these competitions do.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah. Even the blacklist, I feel like, it totally depends on your reader. And Isabel and I both have submitted projects to the blacklist in the past, and one woman I assume it was a woman, totally understood what I had written. Like, it was very, like, I wrote this like satirical early 2000s, very girly comedy. She totally understood all the references and loved it. And then you could just tell certain men read it and just like, it's just not material they're familiar with, or they don't want really sparkly content. So I know Isabel has probably experienced, or Isabel, my co-host Isabel.
I mean, you can tell when a woman reads your script and a man reads your script. And I'll tell you, I think we need to start demanding transparency. Who's reading? Is it 3 male that read the script? Is it female? Like, we need to, I think, as women writer, we know that the bias, the reading bias, the competition, most of the readers are, obviously majority of men. And you see the list is crazy. Men dominate competitions. They dominate competitions. And then, of course, so it's a constant thing. But we should know and who's reading, at least gender. Because I know it was a man, but my script about Laos, it's not a romance. There's no romance. And I made it specifically like that because I'm tired of seeing always, I write others. I write the Christmas movies, and that's okay that the woman has to find the man to, fulfill her life and all of that. But in my personal stuff that I write, I'm a little tired that a man has to be the thing that makes a woman's complete. And I do want to write movies that the woman chooses herself instead of the man. And I had the reader say, I don't see how this woman could survive in Laos without a man and a machete.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, and he was saying that it wasn't realistic, and it's my life. It's based on my life.
Right. Yeah. I had such a similar experience with, like, I think too, both like the gender does matter, but so does ethnicity, because that was my problem on Blacklist, was like having what I assume is a white male read a script about being Indian and having that reader not understand the culture for me. And like, it was hurtful, to have somebody like read a script that like means a lot to you, is personal about your identity, and have them say there's nobody to be in this movie, and like that this movie won't get made because there aren't enough Indian woman actors, or like, why don't you make the woman in this like a different ethnicity to like make it appeal to more people. And it's just like, it helped for me to understand though, like that this is like a problem in our industry, right? Is like, when I read a script, I see things from a different lens because I have a different background. I'm a different person. Like, I grew up in a very, ethnic household. So like, things are going to read differently to me than like a cisgender white man who's going to read a script and imagine a blonde girl like doing all of these things. Like, it is interesting to think about perspective when people read a script. And I think it does matter. And I would love to see more transparency of that on things like the blacklist and competitions. And I feel like that's what, definitely, money aside too, like hinders me from submitting to things like that, because it just feels like a little bit of a waste when you know that like the people reading it probably don't match your background. And
I sometimes go on rants about some organizations that
yeah.
that are making so much money on the hopes of writers, and yeah, it's a problem, and I think it's starting to become more apparent now. Like a few years back, I
Yeah.
think people didn't see it as much, and I see now a lot of people that are going to stop using competition.
Yeah.
When a competition sends emails, yes, you've been in, or no, you're not in, or send the thing really, really close to the event and say, oh, you've been selected. It's like messes, like
Yeah.
huge messes, and or spamming. There's one company that spams email if you make the mistake of creating an account.
Oh, I know exactly what
I
company you're
know,
talking about.
100%. Right?
Yep.
No names, but yes, it has a number in the name.
Yep. Get those emails all the time.
Anyway, yeah, I struggle with that because also it's not the reality of the business, and that
Exactly.
is if somebody takes something out of what I say, is like you have this industry, this bubble industry that has been created to give hope to writers. And then you have the real industry where producers don't care at all about that.
Yeah.
They don't, like, most of them are not even like, it doesn't even exist. It's not even in their sphere of
Right.
existence. So when you're writing for this, you're not writing for that. And I think this is one of the main things. I often wonder, why me? Why am I more successful than others? Or why am I getting more results? Okay, it's true that I do see things a little bit different. My approach is different. But I think that's one of the key things, is that because I started right away, like as a producer, and I was lucky. I mean, I was working, but there's always luck involved in this business. I got financing very quickly for my first production, and then we had a big success, so we did a season 2, and so I started right away with the business. Producing. I was directing and producing projects, but I was right in it, right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So when I went to writing, I was like, oh, why am I putting myself at the bottom of the pyramid now? Like, what the hell is this? So I refuse that. I don't think, and a lot of people see this as a pyramid. The screenwriters at the bottom, directors on top, and then producer, exec, studio, financiers. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I want to switch that. But to do that, you really do have to understand who you're dealing, and you have to see yourself as a peer, and not you trying to beg to be read. I have this little meditation. I love this one, because I do this like 1-minute meditation sometimes just to recenter me, where I'm sitting on a pedestal and I have all these producers at my feet with contracts.
I love that.
Such a powerful like vision, and I can only do it like 30 seconds or a minute, but it's like, yes, I'm the prize, right?
Yeah. I love that.
I'm the prize. And it works. When I do it, I always have opportunities coming to me.
Yeah, I think that energy is really healthy for us to try to think about. Any listeners as well, just remembering that we have value and that we don't have to just like be beggars. You know what I mean? Like, that energy is so icky feeling, rather than like, having the confidence and believing in your work. And that can be hard to do with rejection. But I love that visualization.
Yeah.
Because I know it's like, read me, read me,
Yeah.
read me. I'm like, that's not even, like, that's not, I mean, it's part of the process, but it shouldn't be your main goal. And that's why I started my career strategy program.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I think mindset the way that the mindset of writers is what is the problem. That's why writers are not getting the success that they deserve. It's
Yeah.
all about mindset, like truly, and the value that you give yourself,
Yeah.
you know?
I wanted to say one thing too for our audience before we switch to rapid fire questions. I really like what you were saying about when you're querying and like sending people your log lines to really target and like consider who you're sending it to. And I really like that because to me, it's like you have to think about, do I want this person to make my movie? Like, do I want to work with this person? Like, you should be aligning like what your project is with somebody who like you would want to work with them. And then I think that is where you will see more success, right? Because if you're writing in a similar style, a similar subject matter, right, that like, this type of producer makes these types of movies, like that's going to narrow it down more than just like sending it to everybody. And then what if the person who does respond, you look them up later because you haven't done your research, and then it's like, oh, I don't like this person, or like this isn't my style, and then it's just like you're going to set yourself up for failure later. So I think that that's really great advice for people to consider and think
This is
about when they're
absolutely
querying.
true. Like my project Love Letter to Laos, I'm very selective to who I sent it. And, like sometimes people go, oh, but what about this project? And I'm like, oh, I'm rewriting, but I have a very specific producer in mind of the level where they are, the type of work that they've done.
Yeah.
So many times people ask me to read that project and I decline.
Yeah.
I decline. And I know it. People are like, you say no to be, yeah, I'm like, but I know what I want. And then, and so I'm very selective on who reads it. I know a lot of, I mean, it's, I know some people use the strategy of like sharing your work at large with as many people. For me, I've been the whole, I don't know. It's like, I value my work. I only share when I need to. And, but that's a good thing, right? Like who is this? I mean, when you're making your first one, maybe you want to be, just get produced. The key is get produced. And if do whatever you can to get produced, because I will tell you, it's like a different planet. But then once you're starting being produced, then you have to start, okay, who I want, you have to plan and try to connect with people that are making better movies, bigger movies, and then slowly make your way, to a place that you can make a living and make movies that you're proud of. Because just making a movie is a miracle. So the first one might not be like the best one, but crack that ice, make sure that you get produced, and then you can start like targeting and visualizing the people you want to work with.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now preparing for rapid fire questions.
First question is just, what is your favorite rom-com?
When Harry Met Sally.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was a little bit of a Sally when I was younger. So.
I think that's a good thing.
Okay, the next question is, do you have a favorite rom-com trope to write? So enemies to lovers, or I don't know, what are some other tropes I'm blanking right now?
The airport chase scene.
That kind of thing.
Oh, that's a very interesting. I really love, I wrote in the holiday swap, it was her, him, them, showing, like the romance from her angle, his angle, and then seeing the pieces that were missing, like almost like a mystery.
I like that.
And like, like a puzzle kind of. I love that. I really love it. It's a very rare one, but I was just saying this week, oh man, I would love to write one of those again because because I love writing mysteries and thrillers. So I can bring my skills from writing mysteries into the rom-com, but that's why I wrote a mystery Christmas movie.
I love that.
Yeah. I guess I love mysteries.
Do you have a favorite rom-com outfit, like a outfit from a movie that really stands out to you?
Oh, it would have to be in Devil Wears Prada.
Ooh.
Alex, right? Alex is Anne Hathaway's outfit. Some of them are like iconic.
Oh, Andy's like her.
Andy. Yeah, I was like, something with an A.
Yeah. I only know that because I recently rewatched that one. Love it.
Devil Wears Prada is probably one of my favorite.
It's so good.
He
Yeah.
ends up with no guys.
That's such a good movie. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite line or moment from a rom-com that especially stands out to you?
When Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she's having.
Yeah. Classic. Have you seen any current rom-coms that you recommend?
Oh, Upgrade on Prime.
Oh, haven't you seen that, Aviva?
I've seen that where they meet on the airplane. Yeah.
Yes, Upgrade.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch that.
I expected nothing, and it was a good one.
Okay, that's a
that energy.
I become, when you write them, one of them this week, I was sitting and I told my daughter, the character walks in the room and I'm like, the phone is going to ring. She's going to be called back to New York. I was like, I know them. I know the beats.
Yeah.
I know the beats so much that I think it's hard now to watch. I'm always like counting beats and looking and stopping and like, oh, what minutes are we in, just to study. So maybe it's, I have to go back to watch the old ones to get back into the old ones are the best.
Okay, so if you had like a magic wand and money didn't matter, do you have a script of yours or an idea that you would love to have made?
Yes, Love Letter to Laos. Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yes, it will happen, but I don't have the magic wand yet.
Yeah. We will help you manifest this coming.
Yeah, finally, just where can listeners connect with you, find your website, take your class?
Yes. So my website is isabeldrean.com. You can find my reels and my projects. And for my classes, it's 21dayscreenplay.com. And all my classes are there. Now my master class is now on demand, so you can take it whenever you want. And I have how to sell your script as without a rep also on demand. And slowly I'm adding classes because my schedule is becoming, sometimes my classes were, too spare. So you can go and check out all the stuff that I offer there on my website. And social media, Isabel Dréan, everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put it all in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in show notes.
Thank you so much for chatting. This was I could seriously keep going, but
this was super helpful. I think all of your advice was really useful, and I think it's going to be super helpful for all of our audience members, our listeners, and hopefully some of them will take some of your class too.
This has been an episode of When Isabel Met Aviva. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, please subscribe. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter/X, Bluesky, pretty much everywhere besides like TikTok. We're not really updating, but we might, follow us on TikTok too. We might start posting there. LinkedIn, just like every platform of the world. We're also both. Well, wait, you're not on Twitter anymore, right? You left?
Yeah.
Understandably, a lot of people have left. I'm on Instagram and still on Twitter. I'm on all of it, but all our links will be down below.
Okay, so we won't have an episode next week. So everyone enjoy your holiday season, however you celebrate. But we will be back the week after that, hopefully, with a new episode.
Yeah, we've been really consistent this season, so I want to keep the consistency going. And don't forget to write and watch as many rom-coms as possible. And we will see you all very soon.
Bye.
Bye.